Hello, everybody, and welcome to the internet. Welcome to the internet live stream. Today, we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons and building worlds for fantasy stuff in awkward conversations. And here we go. So, if you are a real person or a robot, go ahead and hop into the chat and tell us how dwarfs should fly and how things should work, and that we're stupid, and we'll be happy to. Uh, what will we be happy to do?
Will be happy to acknowledge your existence.
Oh, we're very friendly. Yeah, we'll be happy to acknowledge your existence. Um, so as always, I'm Dungeon Boy Burnham. I'm here today with what's your goofy internet name?
Um, Tycron? Jim?
Uh,
Jim works.
I think it's well, you're listed as Draken.
Oh, Draken. Yes, I am Draken.
I mean, I guess you could be whatever you want.
How
Um,
do I? Um, well, we really shouldn't be talking about this in the live stream, but is there a way for me to join you as the admin? Because if I join you as a normal viewer, then
oh,
I hear
sure.
myself. So how did I
Um,
have to?
I think you just have to mute the stream.
I just have to mute the stream.
You're
That's a
right,
good.
because I mean
All
we're
right.
chatting here
Bazinga.
and
Okay,
and
great.
can handle our chats that way.
All right,
Um,
that works. I see Draken. I see the spreadsheet. I also have the spreadsheet.
yeah, and feel free to edit that if you choose to. I think I enabled editing, um, but basically what we've got is all of the races in the setting of um, the fantasy land setting, as
Yep.
well as the supplements for Forgotten Realms, Eberron, uh, Ravinica. Is that all of them? I don't know.
I mean, there's also Volo's Guide to
Oh
Modern
yeah, yeah.
Warfare.
Volos spit some out, and so basically I just grabbed all of them there, and it was kind of a matter of looking through them and determining, okay, does this exist in the world? Does it exist as written, or what are the weird um, things that make the world unique and interesting? And since our last conversation with you and myself and I don't know Morgo or whatever the hell he called himself, um, it kind of got me thinking. You guys asked, okay, why are gnomes so prevalent in this world? And I didn't have a good answer, um, but it was basically just the first thing that I started developing, um, and so it got me thinking about what other, why are they prevalent and what other races are around, and I had to determine if I was very opinionated or not to all of the different races. So that's basically what I've got.
Okay. So I think the first thing is I would say no reason to outright ban any single race. Uh, not simply like a player thing, because somebody might have a really special idea for some particular type of race. And now, obviously, if it doesn't fit, like what's a bugbear gonna do in a bunch of campaigns? That's its own thing. But in the sense of whether they exist in the world or not, I think it's okay for all of them to be there. But there's also nothing wrong with emphasizing some over others and how some can be different than others. Um, the Kingdoms of Calamar campaign had your standard player's handbook races, and then it took the hobgoblins and elevated them up to that level. So you had hobgoblins with kingdoms and politics and intrigue and slaves, all of this other stuff, and they became one of the major players.
Okay.
Um, so that I think that is a good way when you're thinking about the races that are in the game to kind of go about them. So it's something that puts a little twist, what's something that's a little different. Um, yeah, and of course, you've done some work on the gnomes, so they certainly have their part in the world, and the centaurs would also be probably another emphasis. Um, you know, some monsters could be more prominent than others. The Council of Worms campaign is a classic in the sense of, dragons can be these big giant monsters who are just, they kind of have their own lair and they don't bother people except every once in a while. But in Council of Worms, dragons recognize they are the strongest monsters, basically, and they have a government and they run a gigantic kingdom and they band together to take down storm giants or whatever. So,
or try to.
or try to, yes. Storm
Awkwardly.
giants are no joke.
Yeah. Or no, I guess it was those frost giants. That's what.
Those frost giants. Oh God, you were part of that campaign, weren't you?
Uh huh.
Yeah, we got our butt kicked for being fucking dragons.
That was embarrassing. Even with that stupid dwarf army that we recruited, I was just so mad at how many deserters there were. But looking back on it, yeah, I suppose. um, and then I guess another question for you in general is, how do you feel about making, or like, I guess, weird rules, stipulations, and like sub races for, well, the different races. Like in the case of the gnomes, there's a bunch of forest gnomes in the forest, and then way on the other side of the rocky plains, the ones that have been trapped there for however many hundreds of years, um, they perhaps evolved into their own subspecies, more I guess more like rock gnomes, but I'm thinking, clearly they're cliff gnomes because they live up in these cliffs, um, and so they'd probably have different, uh, you know, built-in proficiencies or bonuses, uh, and other weird things like that. And that seems like a lot to do with all the races or.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think basically the work's been done for you, right? The sub races have already been created and designed. So you can just use those. Shouldn't feel any pressure. I mean, now if you're making, a gnome campaign, right? And everybody's going to be a gnome, then maybe sub race tinkering and customization works. But, right, getting off the ground, nothing wrong with the sub races that have already been created and are in the system.
Yeah. And then, so how do you feel, I guess, on a similar note, about, um, okay, you are, an elf. You are this type of elf, which means you must be from this region, and here's like general demeanor and politics and like that type of stuff that goes on there. Uh, I don't know how extra is that.
So what?
Like if uh, is it I guess, are you a dick to say to the players, you can play this race with this subclass, you are from this particular region,
Oh,
and
no, that is perfectly acceptable.
that's cool.
yeah, if you're if yeah, that and so one, right, you don't have to worry about game statistics or anything like that. It's part of your world. So, if they want to be that gnome, that you're going to be like, yeah, you're from this region, and that is it. That's totally appropriate, and I think it can even help encourage character development because if they know they're going to be from that region, they're going to read up on what that region is about, and they'll probably adapt some of that into their character background.
Gotcha. Hopefully. Hopefully. Um, okay. Okay. What else? What else? So what else do you want to talk about?
Oh, um, okay. Oh, what I would say, almost totally unrelated, is I'm really liking my deity idea. So I think I am going to, with all the free time that I have between judgeship and legislative things and the bill and lots of Neverwinter, I
Right.
think I will write up my five deity idea
Okay.
as a way to because boy, just the five deity pantheon just sort of like clears the cruft and it gets a world going. It gets a planar universe kind of set up, and it creates a pantheon because essentially the five gods are they're an adventuring party that conquered the world, and then they remade the universe in their image, which would make sense of why a prime material plane is a prime material plane, and everything else sort of supports it.
And
Um,
when they uh, remade it in their own image, did they have to destroy existing gods, or were there existing gods, or did
well,
it spin off its entire, its own thing?
right. I mean, obviously they got to decide time and history. So now there may be there's of course the mystery sixth god who is forbidden, who may have access to these secrets. But I think there is what is known as the far realm. And although the five gods hate each other and go to war a lot, um, the far realm is this um, The Far Realm is described very well in the Manual of the Planes, which is a third edition book, but it's like the crazy, weird alien thing where you can barely survive and everything gets crazy. Um, so the multiverse and the planar universe is, basically in a constant struggle to keep the Far Realm from consuming it all. So I bet the gods would tell you that's what the world used to be like. Whether that's true or not, who knows?
Okay.
But you basically have so you have and it's kind of unbalanced. So you have two evil gods. You have and they are evil and they constantly do shit. You've got a nature god who nature, while maybe not strictly evil, is quite cruel.
Is that one of the so evil, evil in nature?
Evil nature, but nature often does a lot of bad things
Okay.
that is mean and cruel. Um, and then you have the god of magic, and he is very neutral. And clerics who worship him don't get spells, so he doesn't exactly have what one would call a high following. Um, and then you've got Godma, and Godma is the one good god, and he is extremely powerful. But he also has their Godma has everybody like loves Godma, but Godma has like rays of light. So there's like the red rays of Ogma and the orange rays of Ogma, and they all have different belief systems. So
And
one color is like extremely radicalized, one emphasizes like love and family. One is light to travel your way in safety, and so there's one good god, but the good god is split into all these factions, and they've actually gone to war with each other on some occasions.
Okay, so they're the Christians.
Yeah, in a sense. Uh, yeah, so so and while that sounds bleak, it also means there's a shitload of opportunity for adventurers to do stuff.
Okay.
So, because you've got two, maybe three evil forces. You got a mystery, and then you've got Godma, who has like eight different aspects to himself. And yeah, and so anyway, but it's a pantheon that is manageable, and it allows you have the prime. It actually gives a reason why the prime material plane can be central, and then obviously the inner planes all have a supporting role in that, and then the outer planes, it's probably possible to cut some of them out and have others stay in. It kind of depends. I'd have to think about how the planar universe fits in with the deities. Um,
Okay.
and I don't know. It's interesting because I mean I think the deities. I think the deities themselves are absolutely unkillable, but the deities could express avatars, which can go in and do crazy shit.
Do you have do you have names for the two evil dudes, or general? I just wrote down evil, whereas the other ones have like nature, which is neutral evil, magic, which is neutral, and
Right? Um, right. I don't have names for them yet,
okay, I'll just call them X1 and X2.
but you can, you put them on a pentagram, right? So you've got Godma at the top of the pentagram. Then you have Magic Guy on the left. You've got Nature on the right, and then you've got the two evil gods on the bottom. And obviously, that's the norm. I'm sure that, if some, I bet a druid will rotate the pentagram and have their nature god at the top. So that's really, and the thing, so the nature god is quite cruel. However, druids are like the ones that are trying to bring a little order to nature, right? So that's druids are big into the nature god. Wizards are, I mean, in a sense, right? I mean, this could be up for a lot of debate, right? But the wizards are absolutely dependent on magic god keeping the weave in alignment,
Uh huh.
and so there's and then I mean, so the reason why is, so basically the background, and who knows if this would be dungeon master knowledge or anybody's, but the idea is this used to be a 6-person adventuring movie,
Okay.
and Persephone is the lost god. So
And what's that? That's a player who quit the game, ghosted everybody.
well, Persephone is, I think I think Persephone is the woman that the two evil gods, who used to be, people, fought over and ultimately turned on each other. And somehow Persephone gets lost. So there's a lot of shit. I don't know all the whole deal, but there's a lot of shit going on. And then you had, um, I think the nature god is also a woman, but she wasn't really a love triangle. And then Godma is obviously a paladin who is like, I'm assuming all of the good now. And the other guy or something was the wizard, and he decided I'm gonna just make sure the universe doesn't fall apart. And so basically, yeah. So there used to be a hex, and that means there was a lot of balance and everything was even. And then she got shumped off, and I don't know the full story of how that happened, but you know, because you've got, I mean, basically, I'm imagining the two evil gods.
Uh-huh.
One is like one is that like real evil, like the organize the masses, run authoritarian governments kind of evil. And then
Okay.
the other one is your sins, right? You're just, I don't know, sins of sex and murder and, the kind of wild times,
I see.
drugs, all that shit.
Okay.
Yep. So you basically,
And then the nature dude, he's or did you say woman? The nature woman is a druid or was in
I don't know if she was. No, that's interesting. I don't know if she was a druid, but the druids certainly,
oh, the druids revere her or whatnot.
yes,
Okay.
yes. I mean, if you revere that god, you're out of, you know, yeah, yeah, you revere that one.
Okay. Organized
So
evil.
and so I mean, Godma snatched up Godma snatched up most of everything.
Are you saying Godma? Godma or
Yeah,
Ogma?
it's either Godma or it's either Godma or Gohdma. The idea being when you say God damn it, it's a shortening of Godma.
Okay. Hi, I'm God, and my name is God damn it.
Well, no, I mean, so that way, right? Maybe like so when people say God damn it, I don't know, if you listen to idioms, like sometimes I have written like fantasy stories and I have to catch myself every single time I use some kind of idiom. Like I will just it comes up with everything. Like if you want to say, you know, let's hit two birds with one stone here, right?
Hmm.
And like you would never say that in, ad fantasia or whatever, right? That's like this modern American colloquial idiom thing.
Right.
Can't remember what my original point was anymore. But
Oh,
anyway,
we were
so like,
talking.
God damn it, right? God
Yeah.
damn it, right? So, but now, basically, now you could spell it Gohd, something like that. God damn it, or just God damn it. I'm not sure. I just want to make sure we can say God damn it and have it make appropriate sense in a fantasy. That's really the driver behind Godba.
That seems legit to me.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops.
But he is like the most powerful. Um, he's clearly the most powerful. But of course, what he ended up doing, right, is now there's two evil gods. So shit.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it creates quite a great argument for evil, right? They have more of the gods.
Oh, I
You've got
suppose.
you've got two gods. They often partner up with nature, which is kind of a bastard anyway. And then neutral guy doesn't do anything. So it's like Godma against the world.
So, are they? When you say they team up with, oh, are we still on?
I'm still here.
Okay, okay. When you say that they team up with the nature god, like,
I would say in the sense, right? Nature does something like send a giant typhoon
okay,
because it does. and then they see that happening, and they're like, oh yeah, let's create a couple diseases and pestilence just to fucking make it worse, right?
Okay. Okay. So they okay. So nature god does its own thing, and then they are opportunistic and
Yeah, they are
take.
opportunistic to take advantage of nature. I guess I'm going to open up this player's handbook and think about this for a second because I almost think that the presence of these gods can explain some of the classes that are in this game.
Okay.
Because let me just see here. So basically, right, the Godma is the representation of the ultimate paladin. Um, the wizard, the neutral magic keeper is the ultimate representation of the wizard. The nature
Right.
god is the ultimate representation of the druid. So we got and Godma also probably represents well, there's clerics in all the religions except maybe the magic one. Um, but so okay, but I'm sure Godma will take credit for them too. So, oh, I think one of the evil gods, the sinister one. Well, I'm thinking rogue and warlock.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, definitely one of them is the ultimate warlock. I wonder if that would be the
Yeah, we've got the organized evil one and the sins
organized
based
evil and then
one.
the chaotic, right? We kind of have the good one and the chaotic. I mean the lawful evil and the chaotic evil. So would a warlock? Which one would a warlock be
That's
more like?
that is a good question. Well, I
Probably.
mean, it seems like a warlock. Oh, that is a good question. I would go for lawful evil.
I'm leaning towards that too. Yeah, yeah, because they ultimately have all of those mental effect spells. They've got this eighth level spell called Glibness, where they can evade zones of truth. So okay, so yeah, one of them is the ultimate restoration warlock, and then the other evil god could be yeah, could be a rogue, could be a rogue,
Yeah,
could have
I
been
mean,
the
it could be a
ultimate
rogue.
rogue,
It could be
could
a
be
bard. It could even.
bard. Bards are too nice. I don't see. Could be a monk. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Oh, barbarian. Really?
so just sins. You could take anything for your.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm trying to look at the. I mean, I think a rogue might actually be too generic, but a barbarian, shit, and that makes sense, right? Could you? I mean, could you ever like a warlock and a barbarian having a fight over a love triangle and how destructive that would be?
That
I
yeah.
could, I could see that pretty done pretty bad. And then, of course, then that would leave Persephone, and maybe Persephone is not even one of the player classes. She might be something different altogether. Oh, might be the monk, actually. That would make sense. Monks are
Okay.
kind of a retreating order anyway. Yeah, sweet. And now we kind of have an explanation for specialized classes in the game. So you've got a deity pantheon fulfilling multiple purposes.
That is yeah. I do like that. Although we didn't really get that nature uh,
Druid.
person. Okay, so that person was a druid.
Yeah, I guess we call them like the ultimate.
Okay. Um,
But I think what I'm to be more subtle. I think the druids that exist now are they're like, I mean, she's like the true uncaring nature druid, right? They're sort of like the restore the balance druids, right? So
Okay.
they're not quite. Maybe they've got some people, some dogmatic druids who fuck things up, but I think the majority of the druids are like, let's just have balance and not go crazy, right? Because nature is a cruel, arbitrary
Yeah.
biatch.
This is true.
I actually feel kind of bad. I don't know. Did you know that Brett Baer almost died recently?
I don't know who that is.
Brett Baer is a Fox News guy. He's one of the less crazy ones, but he came out to Montana to do like skiing with his family, and he was driving on the roads in around Bozeman where my mom drives all the time,
Uh huh.
and he slid and his car flipped.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was really scary, bad. But he made it anyway. That's just nature is cruel and random and unforgiving, but
Yeah.
also responsible for all life and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose I don't know, a
Anyway, I think I'm
duality of
now that
nature.
I think my plan is to get that written up a little bit.
Okay. Um. Now I don't know if you're looking at the live stream page, but so I've jotted down some notes about this Pantheon idea,
Ooh,
um,
nice. Oh, fantastic.
which is why I'm asking you like dumb questions about why how do you spell this and
Oh
what
yeah.
what is
So I would
this?
now that I'm looking at it, let's instead of Ogma, let's call it Godma.
Ah, Agma is way better.
Ogma might be better. All right. Don't change it for now.
Yeah. Do you have specific colors in mind?
No, no. Well, no. No, no. Change it back to Ogma. I like it. I'm gonna Google it real fast to make sure we haven't copyrighted that to death.
Yeah. Oh, there's a whatever
Oh,
delay on here, so
oh,
I've
it's
already
totally a god from Irish mythology.
Agma is.
Oh yeah, totally. All right, change it. Change to Godma,
Yeah, damn.
but put like an H after the O.
What are we even calling it?
Gohma.
Uh huh. All right.
Oh, almost, Todd.
Yeah, there's a 30-second delay. I'll get it in 30
Oh,
seconds
okay.
if you're watching me fumble around with possible letters. Um, okay, so now with the 8 factions, um, the red rays of Godma and Ogma, and
Yeah,
does
yeah. So
each one is like its own church that needs to be defined, or each is a power or aspect of.
I would say each is its own church. So we got red, orange, blue, a green, um, a violet, uh, a yellow, of course. Yellow would have to be the most popular one.
Because that's like happy
It's
sunshine.
yeah, yeah. It's got to be just the most popular. It's got to be the one with the highest following. Um, and then red, orange, green, violet, yellow,
Did you want like a
white,
white or
white.
black? Yeah.
Definitely want a white.
Okay, okay.
And hmm, I think what's yeah. I would say we've got seven right now, right?
Right.
I would sort of say I might want to stop at 7 because remember, right? The holy number is 5, maybe 6. So clearly, one of these groups is like totally illegitimate.
Oh, I see. I see.
So, one or two of them is like just totally political. Um, yeah, yeah. And I don't know. My idea, the reason for the raise is what I want to do is I basically want to take either the Greyhawk or the Forgotten Realms Pantheon, and I want to look at all their aspects. Right? Since there's only 5 deities, I want to make sure the different moralities and powers and domains and aspects, I want to make sure that that gets at least reflected within these factions of Godma. So I don't know how to fill them all out yet,
Okay.
but that's the idea.
That's yeah, and that seems like I don't know, a difficult undertaking. I mean, obviously, any different groups is going to interpret something like Godman differently, um,
Right.
and
And
take out what
that's
they want to hear.
yeah, that's right. Yep. Yep. And it's sort of like you can get into the details, or you can just be like, it's Godma, the good God, it's all good. Yeah. And everybody can be yellow, right? You don't know what to do, just be yellow. And Ludwig would be a red. Sure.
Because and what makes
Very
him a red?
he makes him a red because very dogmatic. Red is there is evil in the world, and we are here to stop it by any means necessary.
Dogmatic. Okay.
Right, I really do have to look at a pantheon to get an idea of what the other ones would be,
Oh, sure.
but certainly.
Okay. Well, I'll let you have this document and do all of the hard work,
Oh, thank you. That'd be great.
and then I will steal the fruits of your labor and put them into this world. Uh,
Okay.
and then I don't know. How do you feel about? Okay, so you've got these six or five god figures. Um,
Yep.
what about like lesser gods? Demigods and other
Yeah,
people. Do they exist?
that's a really good question. So I would say that I am thinking about that. Um, Now, there's certainly a good question. So I have to think of the right word, but actually, of all people, Peter had worked on a sort of deity thing, and he had come up with this idea of there being like a representative, like a one lead cleric or something. That sort of now I wonder. Let's think about that. So they all have clerics except the magic god. The magic god probably has something very tiny that could be its own thing. Um, the gods definitely can assume the form of. I would say, if you go below the 5 gods themselves, the highest level would be an act, which is it's basically them taking a shape or something like that. Um, I'm sort of thinking out loud, actually, so
Yeah, that's fine.
I have to think about this, but I think there is. I mean, it's really interesting because I think they're all very invested in not having a rival ever, right? So, um, yeah, I'm not. I'll have to think about how. I mean, they definitely have avatars. Yeah, avatars which help get them. If they need to do a direct intervention,
All right.
and avatars are always. if you get too many avatars, the world ends again, right? So there's that. Um, yeah, but yeah, like a personal representative. I like your abbot. That's a good one. Um, because you almost have the religious hierarchies that form on their own, which may not even be what the god
Yeah,
cares about,
not the will of those
right?
particular gods.
Did you ever read Death Note?
No, I didn't.
Well, it's a manga, and I absolutely recommend it. You can also watch the anime on Netflix, which is also good. But the manga is like better than the anime because it really there's a lot of talking of words, and so um, not to give too much away, but Death Note is basically about it's about a kid who gets a hold of a notebook that can kill anybody he wants,
You.
and he sets on a little path to take over the world. And what ends up happening is nobody knows who he is, but they know this person is out there because he's killing criminals left and right. And they sort of they create their own. They like gonna build a temple, and they've got like this management structure, and they just do this on their own. But the main character basically has one lieutenant, and then that lieutenant is the one who actually runs everything.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm saying is the god, whatever hierarchy, especially under Godma, right? Whatever the hell they do may mean nothing, or it means everything. Um, it depends if they want to utilize it or something. So yeah, this is really interesting for me. So I will have to, send that spreadsheet over to me, and I will help. I will try to fill it out a little bit more, get
Okay.
some development on it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I will do that. Um, let's see. What else? What else? Oh, and I guess you mentioned a little bit about the planes of existence,
So
the planes, the various
yeah,
planes. That's something I think that needs to be considered in a world too, at the risk of not exploring it, and then you have the generic fantasy land every D&D world ever.
right.
Um, and you certainly had some ideas for uh, how they would work. Um, was that I didn't write any notes on that. Did you want to talk about that some more, or
Well, I mean, it is, you know, the the thing that's interesting is I guess that would be a whole other question. I kind of have a little tension going on here because the thing is, some of these outer planes are really cool and well designed.
oh sure,
And would you want to take that out of a custom universe game? Um, or could you appropriate those fun planes into this kind of world? Um, I mean, for example, I mean, Godma, I imagine the plane of Celestia would be perfect for that.
right,
Um, and I think the nine hell, the abyss, are really appropriate for the two evil gods. Um, and I don't know. It just be, I have to think. It would just be interesting how you would think of the outer planes and if they'd have their own worlds and civilizations. Obviously, adventurers got to adventure, right? So,
right. Although I mean, I feel like number one, okay, as soon as you get to the brass city, and you can get to any plane ever, then it doesn't really matter that that there's this initial world at all. That is just like, who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's interesting. What if you had a world where you had the prime material planes, the inner planes, but no outer planes?
and I mean, I think like the difficult part of it is that, okay, you just want to make this cute little world and have a couple kingdoms and some stupid little gnomes,
Yeah,
and and now you think about it more, and oh, do I have to make all these decisions on
right,
the where the
right,
universe came from,
right,
and you want it to be unique, uh, to an extent, but like
right.
you also don't want
Yeah.
to go
You
back
don't
to
want to
every
get
book
bogged
ever.
down. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I had thought about using the other outer planes and the inner planes that already exist and have been built because you don't have to do that work, right?
Right.
I mean, that carries the downside of, I don't know, you're just borrowing some stuff, but you don't have to do as much work.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I don't know. So like, where do Slot? They're from the
I
chaos
think Slaughter
world,
or Abyss.
the abyss. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense to have something so you know where these extra planet creatures come from.
Yeah. Is abyss, is that? Well, yeah. I mean, that just opens up like a whole bunch of questions. Like, do these if you get rid of a creature's plane, do you have to get rid of that creature? And
Right.
do you have to get rid of the language abyssal? And
Yeah, yeah. It's a whole can of worms to get rid of the outer planes, that's for sure. Otherwise, what you would do is the inner planes would become far more detailed, right? Like all sloths would be from the plane of Earth, which is like way more than a bunch of rocks. I don't know. I don't know. But I also, I mean, boy, but I just the thing is, I just think some planes are done. And
you say dumb?
what's kind of what
Did you say they're dumb?
done? Well done.
Oh, well done, well done. Gotcha.
I think they're well done and they've been thought out a lot and designed. And really, swapping out the Pantheon doesn't make too much of a difference. You just have, you know, like the gods are just way more powerful in respective planes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is definitely some stuff to think of.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then I'm also, I guess, struggling with the idea of all of the spells. Um, in that, like, do they all? If you're making your world and you want it to be this, unique butterfly world,
Yeah.
do all of the spells function? Are they all there and available? Which you don't necessarily want to take away people's whatever you called it, creativity, or like same thing with the races. You don't want to necessarily pull stuff out, um, but do they work exactly the same way that they work in Volo's guide, or whatever?
Right, right.
Uh,
I would say if you're operating on the macro, they do. If you're running a campaign like Barovia, Curse of Strahd, as you've noticed, they don't fully work.
right.
Right? There are things that are just a little different, and I'll tell you the reason why after you play the game. You
Okay.
may already know, but you know, in Barovia, things don't work as well as they should. But I would say on a macro level, you've already got the body of work that's been done, and they do things. Although, what's really interesting is sometimes these spells don't always consider. like real world consequences. Like, I mean, just think about how teleporting and teleportation circles change everything. Like, really, right?
Right.
Like, a teleportation circle changes an economy, changes the way it just changes everything. Um, Sometimes that's not always fleshed out very well. So it could be interesting to take a look at a couple of those. Oh, yeah, and resurrections, right?
Yeah.
How do we handle people who die,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And like each one of these is its own can of worms.
it's a
Um,
giant can of worms. Yes.
it's like teleportation, especially like well any teleportation, conjuration of anything. It's like
Yes.
I don't know everything ever. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a human should just go through the schools of magic and fucking read everything. That sounds awful.
That's fancy. You make some.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, yeah. I hate to end on the idea that there's just like an infinite amount of work to. But shit, there's an infinite amount of work.
Oh, I mean, you can never stop planning and designing.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it only has to be as much work as you actually
That's right. I mean,
want it to be.
it is not necessary. You can run a level 1 through 10 campaign without knowing what the outer planes are, right? Like,
Yeah,
not necessary.
and maybe that is the thing to do. Is
Yeah, totally.
and I mean, I think it would make sense to go through the spells, even if you just,
Sure.
even if it was just like, okay, everybody is now, this level, and
Right.
so you go read the 10 spells or whatever that'll be unlocked when they next level up and make any decisions then.
Right. And I mean, I've played. I bought this. I'm just looking at my Dungeons and Dragons book. I think I bought it right when it came out, which was August 2014, which means I've been playing fifth edition for about 4 years now. And, just over time, I've basically read every spell in the book here.
That,
So,
that is a lot of spells. Good job.
yeah,
Like achievement unlocked.
yeah, but, you just sort of pick it up over time. You don't have to plow through it, but you'll eventually pick it all up.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, teleportation and languages and
Oh,
conjuring
yeah.
stuff and
Oh, yeah.
even like that stupid message, or not
Yes.
message, the sending.
Sending.
Even that one
Yeah.
is jacked
Yeah,
up.
that was a clever one. You had to devote a whole barn spell to it, but you figured out how to break some of the game mechanics. Good job.
Woohoo! Although you were talking about how some of the spells act differently um, in Barovia, and one of the things that you said after I first sent it is that I sounded like I was a dead person,
That's right.
and I couldn't figure out if that was. And you don't have to tell me the answer, but I couldn't figure out if that was because the spell warped, getting out and made me sound that way, or if it was because I was in the middle of dying at the time.
I will tell you at the end.
All right, perfect. That is my question for you.
Cool.
Okay. So I don't know. Let's do a sign off on the video, unless you got
All
anything else
right.
you want to do a live stream of, and then I'll turn it off, and then we can say goodbye or whatever.
I'm Draken and I'm out.
All right, hi everybody. This is Dungeon Boy Burnham, and thanks for watching. Two watchers on the live stream, which I assume are the two people talking on the live stream. But make sure you hit subscribe and send us all of your money, and
That's right.
and that's yeah. Dungeon
Sounds
Boy
great.
out.
Out.